These are the two things that I do to build trust in sales. Hi everyone, my name is Kian. I run a company focusing on corporate training, business consulting, and employee engagement. Right now, we have worked with more than 10 multinational companies and more than 2,500 employees across 15 different countries, including China, Canada, Australia, Germany, Korea, Japan, Hong Kong, Singapore, and so forth. And today, I want to share with you two things that I do to ensure that I'm able to build trust and rapport in sales. Previously, in another video, I talked about the importance of impression management. Specifically, I shared about how people form impressions very quickly and how these impressions tend to last, even if they're not accurate. And importantly, when they do form impressions, they form impressions along two main dimensions: warmth and competence. Warmth refers to how welcoming and kind they think you are, how trustworthy they presume you to be, or competence refers to how competent they think you are at the task that you engage in. So whether or not you're intelligent, you're smart, you're knowledgeable in the domain or industry that you belong in. And the two things that I do that I'm about to share are, I feel, opportunities for us to demonstrate high levels of warmth and competence. Evidently, if people are going to form impressions of us based on our warmth and competence, we want to make sure that these two dimensions are high for us to leave a good impression. So the first thing that I do to ensure I build trust is that as much as possible, in as many cases as possible, I ensure that the meetings with our clients and prospects are in person rather than online. There's something about an in-person meeting, I feel, that trumps an online meeting. Perhaps it's because you're able to see the person fully, you're able to also take into account nonverbal communication elements like hand gestures, eye contact, and so forth, which you might not be able to do fully in an online setting. I feel that that builds both warmth and competence. Warmth because when you're in the same space as someone else, I feel that neurologically or neuroscientifically, there are some hormonal elements that take place that allow us to build a stronger rapport. That is, if you don't dislike the person strongly. And competence, because if the person is able to see that you're able to engage eye contact at an appropriate rate, an appropriate level, people are going to feel that, hey, this person has social skills. And these things do add up to competence. Significantly, competence is often perceived. So I'm not saying that you don't have to be good at what you deliver, but when people are perceiving and gauging whether or not you're competent, many a time they're thinking about your social skills, your confidence, the way that you present yourselves physically. So an in-person meeting, I feel, allows us to present ourselves as socially sophisticated, and these will add to how competent people view us to be. And another thing about online meeting that I like to bring up as well is that based on my experience, when you schedule an online meeting with someone, the perception tends to be that, okay, the moment I enter this online call, it's going to be business talk because this online call is scheduled for this business talk. And it makes it hard for you to build rapport, at least from my experience. Whereas in an in-person meeting, there are a lot of opportunities where you can build rapport. For example, when you visit a client's office, the moment they open the door for you, they're not going to just start talking business. You can exchange courtesies, ask about what they have done over the weekend and so forth. And then after the meeting, as you're wrapping up and as they're sending you out, you can also then ask, hey, what are you going to do later on? And these are opportunities for you to build trust really tangentially. It's not really explicit per se, but these small interactions, they add up and they determine and influence how people perceive you as a person. So I feel that in-person meetings are great for building rapport and allowing people to view you as competent and warm. And I feel that it trumps online meetings in all shapes, ways, and forms. So that's the first thing that I do. Whenever there's a meeting with a prospect or a client, I try to ensure that it's in person and it's physical. Of course, there's some cases where you're not able to do that, it's fine, but as much as possible, you want to make sure that you can meet the person physically, at least once throughout your interaction or collaboration. The second thing that I do to build trust and warmth and competence is that whenever I do get to meet that person physically, I will definitely buy them coffee. So the small act of buying them coffee ensures that, you cherish the relationship. The person also feels that, oh, this person cherishes this relationship, they can feel that as well, and that's where you build warmth. Competence, because when you buy something for someone, it shows that you appreciate a meeting and you also appreciate the person, and that you know to perform an act to express your appreciation. I feel that that also could be seen as a form of being socially mature and sophisticated. In Mandarin, there's a term called 会做人, and it translates literally to knowing how to be a person. And there are small acts like that, like buying coffee, buying souvenirs for someone, that you can present yourself as someone who knows how to be human. As translated in Mandarin Chinese or from Mandarin Chinese. And so I feel that when you buy coffee, you express that social sophistication. Another point about buying coffee is that you can also present yourself as financially well off, or at least stable as a business. So when I buy coffee, for example, I ensure that the coffee that I purchase is at least a mid-tier coffee or a high-tier coffee. A mid-tier coffee in Kuala Lumpur would be something like a Zeus coffee, whereas a high-tier coffee would be something like Dome, Starbucks, where a cup of coffee will be at least 10 or 15 ringgit. And when you do that, what you kind of suggest is like, hey, I'm so financially stable that I can afford to treat you and your team to coffee and snacks whenever we meet you. And when people are able to perceive that, they more likely, I feel, to then have trust in you, because they feel that, this person's business is doing sufficiently well that they treat their clients to snacks and coffee all the time. And in my particular case, I can share a case study where with this particular client, I was buying them coffee and snacks all the time, and it amounted to 600 ringgit across 5 or 6 meetings, because whenever I meet them, I meet a large group of people and ensure that I buy all of them snacks and coffee. And when we did close a deal, it was like a 52K deal. So if you ask me if I would choose between a 52K deal and like a 600 ringgit expense cumulatively across a number of meetings, I would choose 52K all the time. And I'm not saying that I closed a deal just because I invest in coffee and snacks for the team, but I'm pretty sure that I left a good impression by purchasing coffee and snacks all the time, because there was a time when one of the bosses was there and she said, oh, whenever Kian comes, coffee comes. So I was able to, I guess, build that impression that, oh, Kian is someone who's generous, who's not afraid to share with the team some snacks and coffee whenever he meets them. There's a level of trust and social sophistication there. So I hope you're learning something new, because these are small acts, but I feel that they have been really helpful and they can easily be neglected. At least when I was working with some other bosses before I started my own business, nobody taught me about this. I kind of discovered these as I went along and spoke to different people and learned from different business owners. So if you want to build rapport, build trust, express a high level of warmth and competence, because that's how people form impressions of us anyway, you want to make sure that you make every meeting offline, physical, as much as you can, and you want to make sure that you buy your clients snacks and coffee as much as you can. If you learned something new, share with me in the comments. I'll definitely read and respond to your ideas and thoughts. Like the video if you've enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel, and until next time, I will see you.